All right. Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Tennessee Justice Center's Health Justice Rally. Good morning. I am Chanda Freeman, TJC's Health Policy and Advocacy Manager, and I am so pumped about this day. Welcome to the rally. It is Saturday, and we know that you could have been anywhere else doing something else, but we are absolutely delighted that you chose to join us today as we throw a fit for healthcare. We have lots planned. We'll hear from great speakers. We'll hear performances from Lane College's gospel choir, and we'll have a special performance by gospel singer Kelsey Meriwether. We're going to hear from storytellers, and we'll also have poetry from the Griot Collective. What I am most excited about is being able to interact with you guys today. So during the rally, we want you to participate. So make sure that you have your phone or other electronic devices near you. As a matter of fact, go ahead and invite somebody to join the rally right now and welcome them to start throwing a fit with us.
In early 2021, staff of the Tennessee Justice Center began dreaming of an event that would bring people across the state together in support of Medicaid expansion. They dreamed big. Powerful speakers who are experienced in community organizing, musicians that represent the diversity of talent in the world, collaboration with countless nonprofits and churches, a slogan that would capture the minds of our fellow advocates. There were moments when it seemed the dream too big. But as co-sponsor after co-sponsor and attendee after attendee committed to support this event, we knew this effort was worth our time and energy. Today, in honor of the 300,000 in Tennessee who are uninsured, we present the Health Justice Rally.
Good morning again. I hope that you all realize that we really want to be interactive today. So if you haven't already, go ahead and tag somebody, call somebody, and tell them to come on and join the Health Justice Rally. So up first is Michelle Johnson. Michelle is TJC's Executive Director and co-founder alongside the legendary Gordon Bottomman. Michelle is a powerful force for families in Tennessee, and her commitment to the work started nearly 30 years ago. And we are so grateful to have her here with us today to share a little bit about TJC and the work that we've done over the last 25 years. So welcome, Michelle. Oh, I can't hear you. All right, we're going to give Michelle just a second. All right, so while we're waiting on Michelle to come back up, why don't you all go ahead and start tagging friends and calling friends and asking them to join the Health Justice Rally. TJC is a nonprofit public advocacy law firm, and we are working. Oh, she's back. Are you ready, Michelle?
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now.
So inspired to be with you all. And actually, you all know how to Zoom. So super excited to spend the day with you who have enabled us at the Tennessee Justice Center to keep going on days when we start to feel like we can't make a healthier state. So many partners across the state have stepped up and have reminded us of what we can do and have to do. So I want to talk just a minute about the reason I'm here. Jane Hopkins. Jane Hopkins started working when she was 17 as a waitress, and she became a hand seamstress. Then she cleaned nursing homes. She spent about 30 years cleaning out asbestos out of rural schools. She got sick And when she, like many people in Tennessee, when they get sick, they lose their jobs and they lose their health coverage. And so in her late 40s, she had a hard time being able to survive. She started cleaning hotel rooms. She got lung cancer. Thankfully, the hotel where she worked enabled her to live in a room in Robertson County so that she would have a roof over her head. But she didn't have health coverage and she had lung cancer. She also had a degenerative eye disease. So she was literally going blind and couldn't breathe. And when we found her, we asked her, would she be willing to stand with us to push for Medicaid expansion, to push for coverage that would give her and 300,000 other Tennesseans the health care they needed to soar? And she said, 1,000%. She said, again and again, I will tell my story. I will tell my story, even though I know I probably won't live long enough to have a state that gives health coverage to waitresses and people who clean hotel rooms. But I will share my story because I want to be in a state that has that sort of legacy. Jane died in 2019 without ever having the benefit of the health care that our tax dollars pay for, that her tax dollars pay for. She died without coverage that would have enabled her to have her cancer treated and would have lengthened her life. And so I'm so blessed to be here today with all of you who think that's not okay and who think we can do better and must do better. The Tennessee Justice Center, we've been privileged to be around for 25 years and get to know real heroes like Jane. We stand with them on individual cases, helping them navigate red tape, helping them to access basic services like health coverage for prenatal care and long-term care for older Tennesseans. We also help to make sure that people have food, that children get school lunch and that seniors get SNAP benefits. It shouldn't be so hard to have your basic needs met. You shouldn't have to have a lawyer to get your basic needs met, but so many in our state do. And so we're super excited to be able to stand with those clients and learn from them and be inspired by them all day, every day for 25 years. And we couldn't do it without so many partners like you all. So we help those individuals. We also, in trying to figure out how we can leverage our little bitty thimble full of resources and the ocean full of need, we try to find system issues. And in those individual cases, we see again and again and again, people do not have health coverage. Many working poor Tennesseans follow all the rules, do everything right, and then they're left like Jane without health coverage. And so we led the way and brought together so many different folks to make sure that we were able to take advantage in our state of Insure Tennessee or Medicaid expansion or whatever we want to call it. We just want to make sure that these waitresses and construction workers have access to comprehensive health coverage. So the second thing we do at the Tennessee Justice Center is we bring folks together and we push for laws that serve us all. And the last thing we do is we train and partner and provide technical assistance to organizations all over the state. We serve all 95 counties and proud to say that over the last 3 years, we've had clients in every single one of those 95 counties, and their stories, the daily details of their life inspire us all that we can have a state that can make us proud again. So that's what we do. We know, having done this work for a long time, you don't do anything by yourself. And aside from what I've already mentioned, which is partners like you all inspiring us when our legs are shaky and our hearts are broken, partners like you bring your friends and neighbors, and together all of us can make our state expand Medicaid, make our state take advantage of those tax dollars that are ours, that are sitting in Washington and that can be brought to bear for uninsured Tennesseans. I'm going to breathe. What didn't I say?
So exciting. And I am super excited to be a part of TJC, super excited to be at the rally today. But before you go, Michelle, a historic piece of legislation, Build Back Better, was passed on yesterday by the U.S. House of Representatives. So what does that mean for Tennessee?
Well, thanks for asking that, Chanda, and thanks for organizing this and leading the way and all you have given to making sure that we that we have health coverage for all Tennesseans. So Build Back Better is a way for the federal government to expand health coverage since our leaders haven't been able to find the ability to lead. And so it did pass the House. It's a fantastic first step that it passed the House. It would expand health coverage until 2025 for these people in the coverage gap. It would expand it not through Medicaid, but through the Affordable Care Act marketplace plan. And it now goes to the Senate. So we don't know what will happen in the Senate. There's not anyone that thinks that it necessarily will get pulled out of the Senate bill, but we don't know what's going to happen in the Senate. And once it goes through the Senate, it has to go back to the House. So bottom line is, it was a great first step. We're really happy that it happened, but there's still work for us to do at the state level. Even if everything goes perfect in DC, we still have, 2025 where we have folks who won't have coverage beyond that. Also, Medicaid provides more comprehensive coverage than the Affordable Care Act plans. And so folks in Kentucky will have a more comprehensive benefit if this passes, which please, we need it. We need it right now. But if it passes, still people in Kentucky would have more comprehensive benefits than Tennesseans. And that has nothing to do with cost. It just has to do with leadership failure. So excited today to talk to you all about how we can get our leaders to lead.
Good. So it sounds like we should send a big thank you to our U.S. House folks, Representative Cooper and Representative Cohen, for helping to pass the legislation. It also sounds like we may need to reach out to our senators, Senator Haggerty and Senator Marsha Blackburn, to ask them to support this Build Back Better legislation. Well, thank you so much. Thank you so much, Michelle, for being with us today, throwing a fit for health justice, and join the rest of the show. It's going to be great. All right. Next up is Derek Meriwether. Derek is the pastor of Christian Lifeway Ministries in Oakville, Tennessee. He's going to be offering prayer. Following Pastor Meriwether, there's going to be a performance by Lane College's Gospel Choir. Let's tune in and watch.
Good morning to everyone out there. It's so good to be here with you this morning. I am Pastor Derek Meriwether from Christian Lifeway Ministries here in Jackson, Tennessee. Just glad to be here and for this occasion, throwing a fit for health justice. We're just so glad to be here with the Tennessee Justice Center. And all of you that are on from around the state, just so glad to be in collaboration with you. Just so good to be a part of something that's beneficial to our state, to our city. We're just so glad to be here. And I'm going to deliver a prayer on this morning to open us up and to get us started. If you would, all bow your heads, if you would. To the all-wise and knowing God, we do give honor and preeminence to your matchless name. We certainly give honor to all the clergy and all the co-laborers in the gospel that are participants of this gathering. Father God, we are assembled together to seek your guidance and wisdom on the most productive ways to carry out your will for your people. Father, we pray that you will lead us by your Spirit on how to enhance the quality of those that are around us. We ask, God, that you will give this country the desire to again turn to you for answers. God, we ask, God, that you will continue to bless your leaders. God, enhance your leaders, God, that we will get our leadership, God, from on high. God, we want to be a blessing to the people, God, that are here, not only in this state, but even the states around us, God. We want to apply things, God, that will be better for our community, for those that are less fortunate, God, for those, God, that are in our cities that need help, God. We ask, God, that you will continue to bless, God, these leaders who are in charge. God, that you will lead them in the direction that they need to go, God, to make this world a better place, God, to make this country a better place, our states, our cities, God. We want to be the United States once again, God. We want to be, God, those that you're calling for, God, that will make a difference in our city and our world. God, these and many other blessings we do pray and ask in your name. Amen and amen. I've been walking with my face turned to the south. When my shoulder, a bullet in my gun.
Good morning, everyone. I hope you enjoyed that beautiful performance from the Lane College Choir. My name is Olivia, and I am on the health policy team with Chanda. As she mentioned earlier, we want you to be an active participant in this rally. So we've prepared 3 sets of action challenges for today. The first one is easy and consists of 2 simple parts. Nothing too crazy, we know you just woke up. First, we want you to go to the TJC Facebook page. We're streaming the rally on Facebook so you can easily share it with your friends and family so they can join there if they didn't register for the Zoom. And if you haven't liked our Facebook page yet, it would be a convenient time to do that as well. Second, we're inviting you to support our Black Health Matters campaign. At TJC, we know that Black folks have been faced with disparities in healthcare for decades. Eliminating racially motivated barriers to healthcare must be a top priority for our state moving forward. We believe that improving access to affordable healthcare is an important part of that process. In Tennessee, over 30,000 Black folks are currently in the coverage gap and would gain access to healthcare if our state leaders expanded Medicaid. We are dropping a link to our Black Health Matters pledge in the chat. Please sign the pledge and help us persuade our legislators to prioritize Black lives and Black health. We know that health justice is racial justice, and we need your help in changing our state's history of racism. We'll give you a minute to fill out the pledge, and then Chanda will be back with our next speaker.
Thank you, Olivia. We're going to give you guys a few minutes to go ahead and share and tag and complete the Black Health Matters pledge. All right, we're going to keep everything moving. And again, thank you, Olivia. Olivia is our health policy advocate and a real champion for healthcare. We are absolutely delighted to have her there. And let me just take a few minutes while you're completing the action challenge to say thank you to our comms team who is on standby assisting us. And you guys know anytime you're live, you really cannot predict what's going to happen with technology. So thank you, a big thank you to our tech team, and a big thank you to Olivia and all of the TJC staff who are here with us today, making sure that this rally is happening. So as Michelle said, one of the ways that TJC advocates with people is by helping to advocate for people, is by helping to amplify the voices of people who have been impacted by our state's broken healthcare system. And we do this by encouraging folks to share their story. We know that stories are important. They put a face to numbers, and they also let people know that they're not alone in their struggles. So now I'd like to welcome Myrtle Russell. Myrtle hails from Myrtle hails from Humboldt, Tennessee, from Gibson County. And she is going to talk to us a little bit about her story. Myrtle's story is about reimagining long-term care. It's a story about a mother, like many of us, who are concerned about our children, even our adult children. So join me in this conversation with Myrtle Russell. All right. Well, welcome, Myrtle Russell, to the Tennessee Justice Center's Health Justice Rally. We are so happy to have you here with us today. Myrtle, can you tell me a little bit about yourself and a little bit about why you are at the rally today?
Yes, I'm Myrtle Russell, and I am a public health specialist. I've been in the health field for a little bit over 4 decades now, and started off in nursing, but moved on to health promotion, which is truly my calling. I'm here and excited and grateful to be a part of this Throwing a Fit campaign for health justice, both on a personal and professional level. Personally, because my daughter suffered a massive stroke back in 2017 that moved me from health professional to caregiver. And as an advocate for others, because I know personally of folks, other people who are struggling with the injustices in healthcare, just as my daughter is. And so wanting to share our stories and see what we can do to help improve health outcomes and fight for justice for those who are being mistreated.
Thank you so much for being willing to share your story with us. One of the things that we believe at the Tennessee Justice Center is that it's important for people to hear stories from real people about how policies are impacting folks on the ground. So can you, and one of the reasons that we're here today is to shine a spotlight on the 300,000 people who are living in the coverage gap and the real life impact that this is having on folks' quality of life, at the local level. So can you tell me a little bit about you and Mia's story?
Sure. As I mentioned earlier, Mia suffered a massive stroke in 2017. We were blindsided with that on January 9th of 2017. And that stroke left her with some permanent disabilities, but it also left her determined to not give up. And again, with my background in health, I committed myself from the day that she had the stroke up to now. The commitment continues to help her to rehab as best she can and regain her independence. And so a few days after the stroke, she began intensive rehab, and she's continued rehab for the past 4.5 years now, both physical therapy, occupational therapy. She started with speech therapy and some things as vision therapy because the stroke blinded her in one eye, in her right eye. So she's been determined to do some things on her own and also work with some professionals to help her. And almost 2 years ago, about 1.5 years ago, her physical therapist and the occupational therapist informed us of a device that they had worked with a young man with here in our local area that they felt it would be a big help to Mia to regain some use in her right hand and her right arm that is functions minimally now. And so they suggested that we speak to her primary care doctor and get him on board to write an order for her to get this device. The doctor was 100% in favor. He too felt that it was going to help Mia. So he wrote the order. The company submitted that order to her insurer, and Medicaid denied it. And so we appealed it 3 times, got some legal advice on 2 appeals, and it was denied again 3 times, with the reason being that it was experimental and Medicaid didn't feel that they should cover it for that reason. And so they paid no attention to the fact that we had provided documentation of the device helping individuals, and judges in appeals on the federal level had favored the patient and awarded the device. They paid no attention to the fact that there was someone on the local level using the device, and that person's insurer had paid for it. So it has left us, after 3 appeals, we know now that that's TennCare is not going to, Medicaid is not going to reverse their ruling. So we are forced to seek other ways to pay for the device, which leaves us to do, the only alternative is to do a fundraiser. So that's where we are now, getting ready to kick off a fundraiser so that she can get this device, because we've seen the results, her therapists have seen the results of her determination to regain her independence. Prior to Mia having this stroke, she was a nurse and an avid crocheter, and had created a pretty good steady clientele for herself. In 2019, she felt that she was ready to drive again, and so we went to have her evaluated. She went through a 4-hour evaluation process to see if she could get her driver's license reinstated. She was not able to do that because of the blindness that the stroke had caused in her right eye. Her peripheral vision had not returned to the level where the therapist there felt that she was ready to have her license reinstated. But one of the things that Mia had shared with this therapist during the evaluation was her crochet story. And so he suggested, when I went back to pick her up after the 4-hour evaluation, he had suggested to her that she look at learning to crochet with one hand. She thought it was a joke because her paralysis was on her right side, in her right arm and her right hand. So she said to him, "You need 2 hands to crochet." And he said, "Go home and Google one-arm crocheters, one-hand crocheters." She did that, and 6 months later, she had taught herself how to crochet with her non-dominant left hand and her left knee. So that in and of itself was proof of her determination to not give up. So she's been doing that ever since, and has reconnected with many of her customers, so crochet customers, and she and I now crochet together on an ongoing basis and take orders. And so it provides her with a little bit of supplemental income for herself. But more importantly, it is said to her that I can regain my independence, and she hopes to one day be able to live alone and take care of herself again. So that's even more reason for me to advocate for her to get the device and to help other people to not give up. And so when her physical and occupational therapist learned of that, they said to us, we've got to help you guys fight to get this device, because if she can learn to crochet with her non-dominant hand, this device will help her to regain use in her dominant hand and her dominant arm. And so that's where we are now with me.
That is a powerful story. I mean, talk about determination, talk about resiliency, talk about will, and and we should have policies in place that match determination and will of individuals, just like Mia, all across the state. So I know in your work as a healthcare practitioner, as a nurse, and in your public health education work, that you have had a chance that you've come across countless people who are living real life stuck in the coverage gap. What we know at TJC is about 300,000 people are living in the coverage gap, and that means that they're living with no insurance or too little insurance, and it's having real life consequences. What are you seeing, and what have you seen in your advocacy role at the local level in terms of the impact that living in the coverage gap is having on people's lives?
Most often I see people who give up, particularly those young people, when I say young people, between the ages of 40 and 60, 30 and 60, I would say, who just accept that my insurer won't pay for it, so this is the best I can do. And that saddens me in that I know, based on my own personal experiences, but also my observations of Mia and working closely with her as a mother and a caregiver and a health advocate, that if you give up, where there's no will, there's absolutely no way. And so, but where there is a will, most often there is a way. And it may not be the way that you envision, but there is a way to improve. And so I see a lot of people who give up and accept it as their fate. It's not going to get any better. And my question to those people who reach out to me, I'm also a certified life coach. And so I find myself oftentimes coaching informally with people, informally in that there's no contract and folks don't pay me directly, but it's a part of my calling. And so I got certified just to improve my skills. And so my first question is, are you willing to fight for your health? And I don't always find people who are willing, even when they say that they are afraid to tell their story. They're afraid that they're going to lose the coverage that they have if they speak out about their denial. And so those people often just fall through, not the gap, just huge holes in the sick care system, because I don't think we have a healthcare system. We have a sick care system that does not do a good job when it comes to prevention at all, because true health care ought to be about prevention. Sick care is about taking care of folks who are sick, but we don't have a system that does a good job with either. So every now and then, very rarely, I would run into a person, and when I ask the question, are you willing to fight? They would say yes, and I say it with level, what are you willing to do? So I've run into a couple of people, one in particular, a female, who has said to me, I'm ready to fight, I'm ready to tell my story. And so I say to them, I'll go to battle with you if you're ready to do that, because regaining your independence is going to cost the insurer less than putting them in a facility where they lose more of their independence. So yeah, that's kind of what I see, is people just accept the fatality of what the insurer says, and they don't battle it. They don't battle.
Right. And that is one of the things that we want to change. If we know that if we are to see Medicaid expansion happen in Tennessee, if we are to see Tennessee catch up with the other 39 states in the country who have expanded Medicaid, which means that more people have access to care. More people are able to address these preventable chronic illnesses. Do you, and we're asking people to use their voice to make a difference today. So I want to ask you, do you think that one person can make a difference? That sharing, you and me are sharing a story, do you think that one person can make a difference?
I do, because I think anything worthwhile that has been accomplished, whether it's in health or any other arena, it starts with one person. It starts with an idea, and you share that, and you bind others with like concerns, and you come together, and things begin to happen. I believe that the wheels of justice turn very, very slowly, regardless of what arena you're in that impacts individuals on a personal level. And the wheels of justice and health are very, 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 it's like the slowest, in my opinion, based on my experience. But that does not mean that one individual cannot get the ball rolling and keep it moving. And you just, where there's a wheel, there's a way to keep it moving. And so you just keep hoping that eventually what that one person does or begins will eventually make a difference.
Myrtle, thank you so much for sharing your story with me today. I know that we are running over our time here, but before we end, for people who might want to follow you and Mia's story, how can we, is there a way that people can keep up with your progress and what's going on with Mia?
Yeah, we're going to kick our story off, our campaign rather, our fundraiser. We're going to kick that off just a few days before Thanksgiving, hoping that people will be in the spirit of giving to a worthwhile cause. Also hoping that if this works for Mia, it will be the beginning of something much bigger than Mia, and that will be helping other folks. So you can connect with us or follow us on Facebook, Mia B. Russell, or myself, Myrtle Russell. Mia is also on Instagram with under many handles, crocheting, and also we're adding the fundraiser to her Instagram post, and we're adding it to our My Small Change Facebook page so that people will be able to follow us in what we're planning to do. And we're again excited about what this Throw a Fit campaign will do for others in similar situations, and grateful to be a part of it.
Myrtle, thank you so much for joining us at the Health Justice Rally. We are throwing a fit for healthcare. Thank you for sharing your story, and we'll see you in the field.
All right, thank you.
Thank you so much, Myrtle, for sharing the story, of Mia and the story about independence. Next up, we're in for a real treat. We are delighted to have this performance by Kelsey Meriwether. Kelsey is a Jackson, Tennessee-based singer. And Kelsey has an extraordinary way of cutting through the core to her listeners' emotions. She's in tune with her ministry, and she considers herself a worshiper first. And she's sure about her purpose and intentional about bringing awareness to the presence of God. Kelsey says that this gift that God has blessed me with, I will guard it sacredly and continue to draw it and uplift his people. Now let's listen in to Kelsey. Following Kelsey's performance, we're going to join a speaker panel with Leslie E. Redmond and Rose Mcgee. Leslie is a leading civil rights attorney, a public speaker, and a strategic problem solver. She is the former president of the Minneapolis NAACP and the founder of Don't Complain, Activate. Leslie is a racial equity consultant who has successfully pushed for several racial justice policy changes at the city and state level. Leslie stood on the front lines after the unjust killings of Jamar Clark, Philando Castile, Justine Damon, George Floyd, and Breonna Taylor. She was one of the Louisville 87 that was arrested for demanding justice for Breonna Taylor. And Leslie also gave a groundbreaking speech during the George Floyd protest that gained national attention and shifted the narrative from looting to uprising. Leslie also received her Juris Doctor and Master's in Business Administration from the University of St. Thomas. Rose Greer's journey in activism went into high speed in 2014 after the murder of Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri. Rose felt compelled to do something healing. So she baked 30 sweet potato pies and loaded them into her car and drove for 9 hours to deliver comfort with what she calls the sacred dessert of Black culture, sweet potato pies. Since that time, Rose has delivered over 4,000 pies. So again, in for a real treat. So let's listen in to Kelsey, and following Kelsey, we'll join our panel.
He is my faith, oh Father, calling me out of the dark. And nights cannot whisper away what he said in the light. He is my firm foundation, my anchor won't be moved. The storms may collide, but my soul is on fire with his word. So we listen to the sound of power on my lips. Jesus has broken the curse. He has never lost a battle. So who are you, great mountain, that you should not bow low? Jesus defeated the darkness. He has never lost a battle. And he never will, he never will. Help me say, he never will, 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 he never will. Come on, listen here. Say, he is my faithful, he is my faithful. Calling me out of the dark. And nights cannot whisper what he said in love. Come on, say it. So he is my firm foundation. My won't be moved. Storms may collide, but my soul's may collide. Hey, my soul is on fire. Come on, let's raise it up right here. Say, when listen to the sound, listen to the sound. Power on my lips. Power on my lips. Jesus has broken the curse.
Good afternoon and welcome to TJC's Health Justice Rally. I'm Chanda Freeman, the Health Advocacy Program Manager, and I am super excited to welcome to the rally today none other than Leslie Redmond with the Don't Complain Activate initiative and her platform, and also to welcome Rose Mcgee. And we are super delighted to have you ladies both with us as we are throwing a fit for health justice. So I guess I'm going to start with you, Leslie. Will you tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do?
Grace and peace, everyone. My name is Leslie E. Redmond. I like to consider myself a kingdom building millennial. I am an attorney by trade, but really a justice advocate by heart. I am the former president for the Minneapolis NAACP. In 2018, I became the youngest president in the history of the branch. I also am the founder of Don't Complain Activate, which really focuses on activating everyone, recognizing that you don't have to be President Barack Obama or Beyonce in order to create change. You could be a mom, a dad, artist, entrepreneur. There's so many ways to activate. We really just need to pick one.
Right. Thank you, Leslie. And Rose, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Oh yeah, I'm Rose Mcgee, and I'm originally from Jackson, Tennessee, although I live up here in Minnesota, as we call it. And I am the founder of what's known as Sweet Potato Comfort Pie. And Sweet Potato Comfort Pie was born when I just was sitting there in my living room watching television when Michael Brown had been murdered in Ferguson, Missouri, like most of us were watching. Except I got extremely, extremely frustrated and disturbed by what I was seeing, the hopelessness in the faces of people who look like me. We had just finished going through this excruciating trial of a young man, you know, and here we are now trying to figure it out again. How do we put our arms around this whole thing? And I just had to do something. So I made a bunch of sweet potato pies and loaded them up in my trunk and drove down to Ferguson. My son was in town, rode with me. When we arrived there, the initial protests had stopped because people were now just waiting to see if there was going to be an indictment, which there was not, as we know, fast forwarding. But taking those pies down, and who would take sweet potato pies, right? I don't know. It was something that I felt a calling to do. I did it, and each one was received very welcomely with a story of just wanting to be treated with respect and wanting to be heard and wanting to feel not invisible. So I came back home to Minnesota and knew we needed to do this here at home. Since then, we've made thousands of pies. I say over 4,000, some say more than that. And those pies have been distributed all over the country. We're now known internationally for this work, this active thing that just came out of one person's heart of wanting to do something.
Well, thank you both for sharing on that. And you mentioned stories. And I think it is our stories, our collective stories that bring us here today. And for TJC, throwing a bit about health justice really means putting a face to the numbers that we see. You know, Tennessee is one of 12 holdout states in the country who has expanded Medicaid. We have over 300,000 people in the Medicaid coverage gap. About 10% of them are Black, you know, and we know that health disparities and health outcomes are directly related to racism. So when we talk about sharing stories and we talk about making real changes on the ground. We know that this is about dealing with power and toppling those traditional structures of power. So what ideas you have, or what are your thoughts about toppling power to make real change in our local community around health justice and other issues of social justice?
You want to go ahead, Ms. Attorney?
Well, the first thing, Representative Ayanna Presley, she says the people closest to the pain should be closest to the power. And I really reiterate those sentiments. I think that in order to tackle the power, we have to really become in these power positions. You know, they say if you don't have a seat at the table, then you're on the menu. And so I really encourage people to run for office. You know, we have our first African-American Attorney General, A.G. Keith Ellison here, who prosecuted Derek Chauvin's case. That was a huge win. And if he wasn't in that seat, that wouldn't have happened. You have people like Chief Redondo, the first African-American police chief in Minneapolis, who fired all 4 officers immediately after George Floyd was murdered, right? And so we know in order to create transformation and change, we have to step up to the plate and become at the table. We have to become some of the powers that be in order to truly tackle it. And again, we need people who really have real life experiences, right? I think experience is a great credential. And a lot of the time we don't think about it like that, but we need to believe in ourselves, right? Even if you don't feel like you maybe have all the skills in place, recognize that we're all learning as we go. There are a lot of people that run for office that don't know what they're doing, right? As we've seen in previous years. And so I really just encourage us to be the change that we want to see.
And your thoughts?
Yeah, that's exactly right on. I heard Stacey Abrams speak at a national NAACP conference a couple of years ago. And she mentioned how, you know, people tried to tell her it wasn't her time. And as she said, nobody told me there had to be a time appointed for when I felt I needed to do something. So I think about that in terms of how we get ourselves into thinking that it can only be certain people who do certain things, such as being in politics or becoming the lawmakers. Not true at all. As Fannie Lou Hamer said, and we've heard it a lot lately, that quote that she said, I'm sick and tired of being sick and tired. When we get sick and tired of being treated a certain way, we're going to try and figure out something. And that's how inventions are made. We're now discovering all of these things that Black people invented. It's because when you're doing the work, you are gonna figure out, how do I make this work easier? How do I do this in a way that is not as hard on me and wearing me out? So that it's the same thing with these decisions. When you really get tired of being the victim and seeing others being victimized, you're gonna wanna get involved yourself and you're gonna wanna make change. One of the things that happened to me a few years back during foreclosures, you know, I had lost my job because I got laid off, which was a whole nother political bunch of nonsense, but nonetheless, I was laid off. I notified the mortgage company right away and said, I won't be able to make mortgage payments because I don't have a job, but I know that I'm gonna get a job soon. So they told me not to worry about it until I became delinquent by 2-3 months, blah, blah, blah. Fast forwarding it, they ended up doing what was referred to as dual tracking, which meant on one hand, the mortgage company said, I'm working with you. On the other hand, they sold my house without my even knowing it. Well, when I was so upset by this, and I'm out here now in the streets with people, and communities started coming in, organizations started coming in, because I got out there and I opened my mouth and said, listen, okay, something's got to be done. But it also took me to be frustrated enough to want to do it. And the frustration brings on the knowledge and the skills of others who have been in this thing a lot longer. So there are people out here with the expertise who who've been doing this, who've been working on it, and you may not even know who they are. And sometimes when you start talking about it yourself, it can energize others who may have been laying dormant with it or whatever. All I know is after a year and a half of fighting, 5 trips to court, and several what do you call them, news conferences, and 2 trips to DC, I got my house back. And unanimously, the House of Representatives unanimously voted on passing the Minnesota Homeowners Bill of Rights. When do these parties ever do anything unanimously, is what people used to say to me all the time. But they did. And within that Bill of Rights is that whole section on dual tracking. So in Minnesota and California and a few other states, but not all of them, dual tracking is now illegal. And then comes more. I mean, it never stops, especially for us. It never stops. Who knows about it? How many people even know about it? And if this sort of thing is happening to you, how will you know? So ultimately, you do have to be involved. You do have to stay in touch, and you can't be involved in everything. It will wear you out. But sometimes, just like those pies were calling me, things will call you, things will speak to you, and you know you must do something. You must do something. And it's just important that we listen to that call and that we step out there and really work and not think of it just for yourself. Think of what you're doing for others, because these people who we admire, who we have made icons out of, Dr. King, Rosa Parks, everybody, all of them, they were not just thinking of freedom for themselves. They weren't just thinking of justice and equity for themselves, but for others as well. So that's how I think about it. And when you start to think of others, it's easier to mobilize, and more people will want to be a part of what you're working towards.
That's powerful, and it makes me think about the power of one voice. You hear people often say there are not enough of us. There are more of them than it is us. But this speaks to the power of one voice and the power of resiliency and being willing to fight for and take action for the changes that you really want to see. One thing that excites me about seeing both of you ladies together so often is that it looks like you're doing a great job of bridging the generational gaps. Historically, there hasn't been as much communication or building off of the intergenerational building that should happen around social movements. So I'm inspired by what I see between you two. So what suggestions would you have for people about being more intentional about being intergenerational in their advocacy?
I definitely want.
Can I just wanted to know how we met, because she does it so beautifully. That's what's
yes. Yeah. And I just wanted to build off of your last testimony and story. The Bible says we have not because we ask not, right? And so a lot of the time we suffer in silence, right? And we have to speak up. Zora Neale Hurston, she once said, if we are silent about our oppression, it will kill us, and say we enjoyed it. Right. And so it's very important that we speak up about the things that are paining us, because 9 times out of 10, if one person's being oppressed by it, there are hundreds of people being oppressed by it. So thank you for speaking up, Mama Rose. And I encourage anybody seeing this to make sure that you speak up. Don't be embarrassed. Don't have too much pride. Don't be in a house crying and can't nobody help you if they don't know about it. Right. And so how we met is a really beautiful testimony. And again, it's kind of one of those divine God stories. I was receiving an award in the name of Mama Rose Mcgee, late husband, William B. Mcgee. And it was with the Minnesota Association of Black Lawyers. And she was there. She usually wasn't there, right? You usually weren't the one actually giving away the award. But this night was the I think it was a big anniversary. And so she was there, she gave me the award. And unfortunately, that same night that we were there getting the award, an unarmed Black man was being murdered in North Minneapolis. We would later find out that his name was Jamar Clark. So that next morning I woke up, I was so happy by receiving this award in the name of Mr. Mcgee. And unfortunately, I got a call from my professor at the time, who also ended up becoming the president for the Minneapolis NAACP, Nakima Lee Armstrong, telling me that this unarmed Black man had been murdered. I went around North Minneapolis. We interviewed the individuals, witnesses who were on the ground. Went to church, came back. It was hundreds of people outside. We were there for 18 days in the dead of winter protesting. And so in between that, maybe 5 days in, I'm there. And I was, arguing with the police per usual, because that's what we do, because at night, the protesters were really getting abused, right? But in the daytime, people come and they don't know what happens in the darkness because they only see the lights, right? And so Mama Rose and some of her friends, I don't know, it's her at the time, they're giving the police officers fines. And I'm like, why would somebody be giving the police officers fines, okay? I'm a young millennial now. I was 30 in March, but I was even younger then. So I was probably about 22, 23. And I just couldn't believe it. So then one of them was like, oh, hey, it's Ms. Rose Mcgee giving out fines. And I was like, oh, I know Ms. Rose Mcgee. So that kind of lightened the mood. And I love Ms. Rose Mcgee. So we started to talk. And what was really exceptional about this moment, right, was that an interviewer from one of the local stations had planned to interview Ms. Rose Mcgee. And she said, well, you can interview me, but you also have to interview this young lady, Leslie E. Redmond, because she has a story that's a little different than my story. Because a lot of us elders, we come in the daytime, but we're not here in the nighttime, right? And so if you're only getting my story, you're not getting the full story, right? And so she really brought me into the story, and it was so beautiful because a lot of the time the media and just the powers that be, they will use us against each other, and they will divide and conquer, and they will only tell one aspect of the story, whether we're talking about rich Black people or poor Black people, whether we're talking about the elders or the youth, whether we're talking about the light skin or the dark skin. We are all in this together, and you can't talk about Black people, as Dr. Kimberly Crenshaw talked about, unless you're dealing with the intersexuality of all Black people, right? And it was so amazing because Ms. Rose Mcgee, it was instinctively, she just knew, oh, we have to get this whole story and this whole picture. And I'm so thankful because ever since then, we've been attached to the hip, and now she can't get rid of me. So it's been really, really great. And I thank God, but I just encourage you all watch it, take advantage of those stories. A lot of the time we talk about what the young people aren't doing, what the young people don't know, but they won't know unless you tell them. A lot of the time we talk about where the elders aren't, but they can't be somewhere that they haven't even received an invitation. Oh, right. But they can't even be somewhere. You see, we get into a good part. That's why the phone is messing up now. But the elders can't be somewhere where they haven't received an invitation or they don't even know it exists. And so it's time for us to start just even extending the olive branch, because from that opportunity of extending the olive branch, it grew such an appreciation in my heart, because a lot of the time you do see where the people that are on the ground fighting at night and the day, sometimes the stories aren't told, right? And so I just am forever appreciative of that moment. And there's been so many moments since then where Mama Rose Mcgee just thought about me and was like, hey, we need a young person. And I can't tell you all, not just with Mama Rose Mcgee, but in so many situations where I'm the youngest person at the table or the only young person at the table. And I thank God for that opportunity. But the reality of this is that it's not just me. We need more, right? We need to make sure that, because our young people, we're not just the future, we're the now, right? It seems like that was such a long time ago, but it's like, and it was, because a lot of young people I work with now that's 20 years old, they were in like middle school, going to high school when that happened, right? And so that just tells you how quick time is flying, and we're missing opportunities when we're not grabbing the now generation.
Right, so true, so true. Well, I know that we're coming up on time for this interview to end, and I could go on for a while because you ladies are
full of the kind of information and the kind of energy and excitement that we want to see happening across the state of Tennessee. We building something here. But before you go, what word of advice would you leave for individuals in Tennessee about the importance of activism, about the importance of working together and doing something other than complain?
Well, you know what mine is going to be. Don't complain, activate, right? And when I say don't complain, it doesn't mean don't make noise, right? My big mom growing up, whenever, people ask how she's doing, she always say, well, I won't complain. And it didn't mean that things weren't going on, but it meant that she was going to work and do something about it. Because you all know, especially as Black women, as we're sitting on this table, a lot of the time we don't have the luxury because nobody's coming to save the day. Right. However, as we talked about earlier, your voice matters, your struggle matters. And in order for it to truly matter, for people to really care about it, you have to make them care about it. You have to be the first one to care about it. And once you get activated, everyone else will follow. So believe in yourself, believe in your cause, and don't complain, activate.
All right.
And as weird as it may sound, I'm going to say food. And I say food because there was no civil rights movement without that food in the kitchen and in the basements of kitchens, particularly churches, because I think of it as being, it fortifies. And our soul food has its history, its place. And for me, that was sweet potato pie that spoke to me. And that's why I say it's a catalyst for caring and building community. And we say we just keep our eyes on the pies. And we say it's the batter that matters. Because when you think about the ingredients of a sweet potato pie, it's complicated in the sense that you don't just go in and whip up sweet potato pie just like that. You do, first you gotta cook the potatoes, and then you gotta make sure everything is done right. And then after it's baked, it's gotta set for a while. So when you come together over food and you start strategizing and really thinking about what the essence of what you're trying to accomplish is, that's the same power that we find in those ingredients of food. You're the ingredients, and everyone comes with their own thoughts, right? But one thing I just want to add beyond that we didn't talk about, and that is the ability to respect each other. We allow ourselves to get all in the middle of things, and we get upset with each other. We hold grudges, we hold envy, we nitpick, we do all of that. We should be able to, what is that word that says, walk together, children, don't get weary. We have got to do better with each other. So when you come together over that food, you sit there and you bless it in whatever manner that means for you. And then you think about what it is that you're there to try and accomplish. And it's amazing. Every bite that you take will just give you more fortification to go forth and make those changes that are needed. And since we're talking about health, make sure that you're not eating too much of the wrong things. I know I love macaroni and cheese too, but whatever it is, we know we need to do it in moderations, right? But at the same time, let's just practice good health things. I mean, we walk, we need to drink more water, do all of those things. Indeed, we do. But we can also celebrate and strategize over that food.
And if I could just say one last thing, Miss Rose Mcgee is bringing some healing to Tennessee. So you all make sure that you follow her on Facebook, on social media at Rose Mcgee, and stay tuned for the healing that is to come.
Yes. All right. All right. Yes. Well, thank you both so much for joining me today at the Health Justice Rally, for throwing a fit for health justice in Tennessee, but for you ladies throwing a fit all across the country. and shine them bright wrongs and make things better for everybody. I appreciate the work you're doing. And thank you again so much for being with me today.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Well, thank you so much to Rose Greer McGee, and thank you so much to Leslie E. Redmond for being with us today. Now I'll toss it to you, Olivia.
That is a tough act to follow, but thankfully I am not speaking. I'm just spurring you to action. So let's jump to action challenge number 2. We are going to be launching a poll in the Zoom room, so please fill that out when you see it on your screen. The reason we put that poll up is because TJC is committed to addressing health disparities and inequities in Tennessee. For over 25 years, we have worked to elevate the needs of marginalized groups, including low-income families, seniors, and people with disabilities, to make Tennessee's policies more just and compassionate. Inequities and disparities are not commonly used terms outside of the world of health justice, so if you aren't familiar with those phrases, we've put definitions on the slides for you. To put it simply, health equity is achieved when every person, regardless of race, income, education, gender, or other demographics, has access to what they need to be as healthy as possible. Health inequities are the opposite. Health disparities are when a people group are more likely to have worse health outcomes, shorter lives, and higher rates of chronic conditions. So if you answered yes in the poll, we are dropping a link to our health disparities survey in the chat and would love to get more feedback from you. As Chanda comes back, I invite you to take a minute to fill out the survey. Real stories are what will strengthen this movement and help us create lasting systemic change. Like Leslie said about not complaining and activating, we want to use these stories, use these real experiences, and take those to motivate legislators to act on your behalf. I'm going to toss it back to Chanda now.
Thanks, Olivia. So while you guys are taking action, and I know you're taking action, I know you're responding to the polls, I know you're sharing the surveys, I know you are taking action, I know you are fired up just like I am. But I don't think that we can say enough or that we can emphasize enough how important our collective voices are. We must use our voices and rise if we are going to truly have the change that we seek. TJC has been lucky to form a partnership with the Griot Society, which is a group of gifted Black writers and poets. And I am honored to be able to share a poem that was submitted to us by Bill A. Marable, who is a member of the Griot Society. This piece is about aging and about living with health issues. And I'm gonna read it, so you all be patient with me as I read this. I'm gonna try to, and I wanna see snaps in the chat. All right, so the title of this poem is Falling Up the Clouds by Bill Marable. The timing is never exact, growing old. A stiff joint at sunrise, predictor of storms and cold weathers are coming. Still mingled with muscle on surgically repaired knees and hips, and LASIK lasered vision enhancing porcelain smiles. Raised eyebrows and awkward glances with a hand curved behind your ear, hoping to amplify the near muted conversations. Memories of yesteryears gradually modified till they become intertwined with yesterday, and that never really happened. The medication merry-go-rounds, pick-me-ups, lay-me-downs, and placebos in between. 5 in the morning with food, 1 for lunch, 3 for bedtime, and with water. CPAP machines, mass sleep apneas, night noises, allowing my better half to return to comfort in our bedroom. Gatherings with high school classmates, reminiscing over dirt mounds of friends who have fallen up the clouds. Again, falling up the clouds. I think all of us, well, I am of a certain age where I understand the medication regimen. Understand. So again, one thing that I want you all to know is that your voice matters. Your voice might be the one voice that reaches the heart of a person with the power to make a difference. Now I'm going to send it back to Olivia again for our final action challenge.
Thank you, Chanda. All right, guys, it's time for the last challenge of the day. I hope you've been enjoying the other challenges and will continue to stay involved in advocacy work after our rally ends today. I am a bit of a nerd and have been watching the numbers crawl up on the Black Health Matters pledge and on the disparities survey, and just want you to know from TJC that we are so appreciative of you taking action and you using your voice to spur long-lasting change. So for our final action challenge, we want to set you up to stay informed about health justice and ways to be involved in this movement. The easiest way to do that is by following TJC on our social media platforms and signing up for our newsletters. TJC is active on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn, so you can follow us on whatever platform you enjoy most, or on all four if you're an overachiever. For longer updates and more detailed information about health justice in Tennessee, I'd recommend signing up for our newsletters. Whether you're interested in nutrition or health advocacy or children's health or free trainings, we have a newsletter for you, or again, you can sign up for all of them. I know that our different departments pore over these newsletters and make sure that we are not missing a policy update or anything that would benefit people in Tennessee who want to stay informed on what's happening in our state and what we can do to make our state even better. So don't miss out on an opportunity to get on the newsletter list. Those links are in the chat, and please take this final action as Chanda takes the stage one last time.
All right. Again, thank you guys. I cannot believe that it's been over an hour already. We have come to the end of our health justice rally. I'm still throwing a fit, and I hope you guys are too. So thank you so much for being here with us today. I want to give a special shout out to our co-sponsors and our community, our co-partners. We could not have pulled this event together without you. So to our event partners, the Black Clergy Collaborative from Memphis, the Society for African American Awareness out of Jackson, to our friends at Community Youth Builders, Union University School of Social Work, the Griot Society Collective of West Tennessee, Tennessee Healthcare Campaign, Tennessee Disability Coalition. Shout out to Lane College, Lemoyne Owen, Freed-Hardeman University, Tennesseans for Historical Justice, Christian Lifeway Ministries, Mississippi Boulevard Church, American Baptist College, St. Andrews, AME, Meharry, Fisk. Our list goes on and on. We are so delighted to be able to pull this together and to have your support as we did this. We could not have pulled this off without you. I hope that you guys were inspired to take action. And if you have not already done so, please, please, please take the Black Health Matters pledge. You don't have to be Black to take the Black Health Matters pledge. What that means is that life matters, and we're concerned about what is happening with health disparities and health outcomes in our state. And I invite other people to sign the pledge if you've signed it. If you are a member of the faith community, we invite you to sign our Faith and Clergy Leaders petition. Make sure that your church is represented. We know that pastors are often on the front lines, on altars, praying for members who have health issues and who may also be rationing out medication because of a financial burden. Pastors and church folks are the ones who might help a mother decide between purchasing medication for herself or feeding her children. Heaven help, this should not be so. We can make a difference. So what's next? We are happy to be partnering with the Black Clergy Collaborative and the newly formed statewide African American Clergy Association to host a mass call on December the 13th at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. If you register for today's event, you'll get an email about next steps. If you didn't register, we invite you to do as Olivia said, like us on social media, and be sure to visit our website at www.tnjustice.org and sign up for our newsletters. Thank you again for joining us as we have thrown a fit, as we continue to throw a fit for healthcare on behalf of those who are struggling and living without the healthcare coverage that they need. I hope to see you guys on the other side. God bless.